Labeling, something we have all partaken in at one point or another. In fact, something so prevalent in society that after conducting an interview on my peers, all of them were aware of their involvement in labeling others. This prevalence in the use of labeling around me is what initially fueled my interest in this topic. Whether it's the labeling of an object or a person, labeling serves one purpose: to categorize. Labeling is a very broad term, and each person's definition of it differs. Different people have widely varying responses to situations based on their background, and this applies to labeling all the same. In this video, I'm going to go over the labeling of people specifically, covering why we do it, the dangers of it, and how you can better understand labeling in hopes to be more self-aware in the future. Have you ever expected something to happen, and it did? Moreover, have you ever expected someone to act a certain way, and they did? Well, what's likely at play here is the Pygmalion effect. The Pygmalion effect describes a cycle of events that ultimately leads us to fulfill our own hypothesis. Our beliefs towards another person's abilities influence our actions towards said person, and these actions then have an impact on the other's beliefs about themselves, in turn affecting said person's actions towards us and reinforcing our initial assumptions. Though when discussed at face value, it doesn't seem like that much of a problem, this cycle of events can greatly impact, if not change, the course of one's life. In a study done by Rosenthal and Jacobson in 1968, named Pygmalion in the Classroom, teachers were told that certain children in their class had been tested to show that they were quote-unquote late bloomers, and to expect these selected children to excel academically in the near future. These late bloomers were in reality selected completely randomly and had been tested to have the same academic ability as everyone else. It was found that by the end of the testing period, the selected students tested on a significantly higher level in terms of academic ability. Similar tests have taken place in which all of them reported, if not similar, nearly identical findings. In later evaluations, it was concluded that what the results revealed was the work of a psychological feedback loop of sorts. This loop functioned as follows. In receiving the knowledge that some of the students have more academic potential, the teacher forms different expectations for these students. These expectations then lead to a change in behavior, either consciously or unconsciously, towards the student. These changes can be described as fitting into one of four categories. The first one, identified as climate, refers to the warmer and more supportive environment that the teacher may create. The second, called input, refers to the academic material given to the students and how this material may be more challenging, hence allowing more room for growth. The third is named output. The output is the duration at which the teachers may spend working with students and the likely increase this will face. Finally, teachers will give more constructive responses to the students' work, and this is called feedback. The students consciously and unconsciously recognize these higher expectations and respond to them accordingly, being more motivated, henceforth working harder. Over a long period of time, the now more engaged student will benefit from the harder material, enhanced feedback, and the warmer climate, improving in overall academic achievement. These things can also permanently affect the student's self-view and motivation. The teacher recognizes this superiority in comparison to those at which are held less intelligent and further affirmates said teacher's expectancies. This seemingly biased feedback loop isn't the fault of any subject in particular, and it's simply the result of internal categorization. The basis under which we label people is often off face value qualities. As a general example, say person A grew up living a stereotypically high-class lifestyle, whereas person B grew up living a stereotypically low-class lifestyle. As a hypothetical, if person A were told to evaluate the socio-economic standing of a seemingly low-class family, it is likely that person A would identify the family as lower class than person B due to the level of contrast in the elements that would be apparent when compared to both persons' lifestyles. Each person's interpretation of something depends on their background. A similar method of testing bias in labeling was employed in a publication titled A Hypothesis Confirming Bias in Labeling Effects, in which John M. Darley and Paget H. Gross conducted an experiment. This experiment entailed having multiple groups dubbed as perceivers. All perceivers were shown videos of Hannah, a supposed fourth-grade student. The first segment of the video provided demographic information about Hannah and depicted her in different places, one a middle-class scene while the other a low-class scene, each with contrasting environmental cues like a rundown neighborhood or a lavish modern neighborhood. The second segment showed her answering different questions inconsistently, untelling of her true academic standing. One group was shown the first segment only, some only the second, and the remaining both. Subjects were told that this student was selected at random and the perceivers were to evaluate Hannah's academic ability. It was found that when the perceivers were presented with only Hannah's demographic information, they demonstrated a resistance in conclusively assuming things, from what was reported to be due to their lack of justification of said hypothesis. The perceivers would have already made assumptions about Hannah and her academic ability, but would either consciously or unconsciously hold back on reporting said findings. Steps were taken to assure the subjects were aware that the test was anonymous, but still there was a large possibility that test takers consciously held off on making such reports, due to being at the scrutiny of the interviewer or others involved in the testing process. Regardless, said perceivers were aware of the fact that assumptions based solely on inconclusive evidence was not justifiable, both morally and logically. However, once provided with the clip of Hannah answering questions, this changed. It was found that even though Hannah answered all of the questions the same in both clips, that the perceivers, given the information that Hannah was from a lower class environment, generally stated that she had the academic ability of someone below the 4th grade level, whereas those shown Hannah in a middle class household stated that she performed close to a 5th grade level. John M. Darley and Paget H. Gross concluded that these results were due to the method which the perceivers adopted to analyze Hannah's academic potential. The aforementioned assumptions made about Hannah's academic ability, based on her socio-economic background, narrowed the perceiver's scope of information, focusing more on the information that supported their hypothesis while disregarding that which contradicted it. The objective evidence itself did not warrant a conclusion, but the method of analysis that the subjects adopted to confirm their initial hypothesis was what led to the misidentification of academic ability in this scenario. These findings established that labeling is in fact a dangerous tool of categorization. Whether we like it or not, the face value inferences we can make about people very evidently do come across in the mannerisms we exert towards others, which can then lead them acting differently towards us, creating a cycle of sometimes unfair assumptions and, moreover, an infinite feedback loop. It has been undoubtedly proven on several occasions that one's perception of their own capabilities of any form has the ability to physically and psychologically impair individuals. The sheer consequences from this can only be imagined when used by a figure of power negatively, whether it be the boss's least favorite employee, the teacher's least favorite student, or that friend you don't particularly enjoy hanging around. The labels we put on others can harm them. To conclude, we can take that labeling is more than just a tool of categorization. It's something that can change lives for the better or for the worse, and everyone, regardless of the environment or the circumstance, should be more aware of the impact that it can indirectly have on the lives of everyone around them. Though we sometimes don't notice it, we label, we categorize, and we impact, and with power comes responsibility.